from the Father in heaven.
Joy that will lift you to heavenly realms.
Comes from the Father in heaven. Heavenly joy, unspeakable joy. Joy full of glory, Jesus is joy. Wonderful joy, marvelous joy. Oh, what a Savior, Jesus is joy.
Down from the glories of eternity.
Sent from the Father Since I started for the kingdom, since my life He controls, since I gave my heart to Jesus, the longer I serve Him, the sweeter He grows. The longer I serve
That's Joshua. So that is Joshua, and we'll see the spelling changed again later on. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Get ye up into the south, way southward, and go up into the mountain, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, wherein they be strong or weak, few or many. Interesting. We'll come back to this. And what the land is that they dwell in, where it is good or bad. Didn't God already say the land's going to be good? Okay, so I don't think Moses was questioning God. There's a purpose here. And what cities they be in that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds. And what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be of good courage, and bring of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. They understood grapes. They probably haven't seen grapes in a little while since they left Egypt. So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rahab, as men come to Hamath. And they ascended by the south and came into Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheman, and Talmi, the children of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. And they came into the brook of Eshcol, and cut down from thence a branch of one cluster of grapes, and they bare it between two staffs. Two upon a staff. And they brought the pomegranates and of the figs. And the place was called the brook of Eshcol, because of the cluster of the grapes where the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from searching the land after 40 days. I think those grapes were just growing naturally. I don't think they stole of somebody's. This is just me guessing. But I bet they were growing naturally, because there's a land of flowing of milk and honey. So, and they returned from searching the land after 40 days. Key point. And they went and came to Moses and Aaron and to the congregation of the children of Israel into the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word to them unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came into the land whither thou sentest, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great, and moreover we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go at once. Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are able to overcome it. But the men that went up with him said, We be not able to go up against these people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, the land through which we have gone to search it, to a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw giants, the son of Anak, which come from the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. So we have the 12 men went to spy on Canaan, 10 were bad, and 2 were good. They didn't start off bad, they did their job. But we had an evil report from 10 of them, and 2, Joshua and Caleb, gave a good report. As I said, we're not on wondering. We're not blindly going about our day wondering what's going to happen. God is in control. We have to trust that. And so trusting and following God is a course that must be actively chosen in our lives. And so in this case, we get 2 reports out of the same place. The Christian life is full of highs and lows. It's full. We're not promised only the highs. We do have the lows, and we have the valleys in between. The times of traveling, the times of waiting. As I said, the times of traveling, of just pressing forward towards Christ. So we're going to kind of look at this and see how maybe this story, how God. It's not a surprise to God, the report that happened. It's not a surprise what was going to happen. But it was a test of his people. And they failed miserably. So we have first, number one, we have the report of the spies. The report of the spies. God's ways are not our ways. God's ways are not our ways. He told Moses to go spy out the land. Now, he didn't have to tell Moses that. He could have said, go take the land. In fact, that probably would have been easier in the sense that they're not letting anything convolute their mind. Just, okay, he said, go take the land. Let's go take it. God is with us. That's really what happens later on, 40 years later, doesn't it? God said, take it. We're going to take it. And so they sent out some spies then, but it was in a different sense. They worked that out differently than 12 spies. It was more of a, we're going to, militarily speaking. But God's way, I think man's ways was to go check stuff out. Put our toe in the water, as you may, right? I'm not sure. I don't know about this baptism thing. Maybe, is that water cold? Oh, well, not today. Maybe the heater's not working, so we're not going to do it. You know, we want to test things out. And that's kind of what was happening here. I don't believe Moses was in sin or anything like that. I believe he went to send the 12 spies as the leaders of their people to go see what we're about to do. Come back. Bring some food. Bring some fruit so that people can see it. A little bit of sight in the faith that they're supposed to have. And so God asks us to walk by faith. God wants us to trust him. Sometimes sight ruins our faith. I think sometimes it does. We let it get in the way. We let it become the, oh, well, I can't see God, but I can see this problem ahead. God obviously didn't know about that. It didn't occur to him. We know that's not true. So sight can get in front of and contradict our faith. So the spies surveyed the land. Letter A, they surveyed the land. They followed Moses' command. They went into Canaan for the purpose of bringing a detailed report. A report. Not necessarily an opinion, a report. And so whether the land was going to be, find some facts, the types of cities they are, the land, is it strong or weak, the population, samples of the fruit, of what is there to eat. Just, it's a report that they wanted. You know, Lewis and Clark, when they traveled to the Pacific Ocean, they were commissioned by President Jefferson, who believed that Jefferson believed there were woolly mammoths and volcanoes and a mountain of salt that they would probably find. They didn't find any of that. No woolly mammoths, no nothing. But they did find 72 Indian tribes and over 200 new species of plants. The Rocky Mountains, the Yellowstones, and things like that. They found that. So they were commissioned to go and see. And I don't know if the spies, and remember, the spies were not just spies. They weren't trained spies. They were the leaders of their tribes. If they had presumptions going in, and then things confirmed their presumptions. I think Caleb and Joseph's presumption is, I can't wait to see what God's going to do with all this stuff for us. And the others were, I don't want to see what would happen to us. So the spies, they surveyed the land at the command of Moses. They did their job. They surveyed the land. And then B, the spies gave their recommendations. They gave their recommendations. They reported on the fruit of the land. They brought back grapes and figs and pomegranates to show the great food there. They had just been in an arid desert. They were not wandering. They were on a journey to this promised land through the desert. They probably hadn't seen grapes. They probably hadn't seen figs and pomegranates. I bet they had that in Egypt. But God wanted them to see the fruit of the land. They wanted to see what he had in store for them. Remember, God had already told Moses it was a good land. Back in Exodus 3, 7 through 8, the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt. This is before he took the people out, and have heard their cry by the reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows, and am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and bring them up out of the land unto a good land, and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, a place of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. God knew exactly where he was taking them. And he knew he had given him already the report. The report was done. The spies, they had reported on the people of the land. The majority saw opposition. Now, we're going to see opposition in our lives. As a Christian, you will see opposition. If you don't see opposition, you might want to question how visual your faith is to others. Plain and simple. I don't receive it because I'm probably going with the flow. I'm the quiet Christian, just going with the crowd. I'll worship God. I'll pray. I'll read my Bible, but I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to live my faith in front of me. I'm not going to have that to where they could see it. I'm going with the flow. I'm probably not going to have much. There's no resistance when you're going with the flow. And so there was going to be resistance here. But God is always with you. Caleb gave the report of the land, and he was full of faith. He's full of faith. God can do it. We can take this. And when he's saying we can take this, because we have a God in heaven, we're his people, we can take this. We can overcome this. This is there's giants. Big deal. So David overcame a giant. He wasn't a grasshopper in their sight. He overcame a giant. So he was full of faith, but the other spies, they concentrated on the enemies of the land and the resistance, and they over-exaggerated it. Like I said, they said the grasshoppers were in their sight. They were not looking at the blessing. They weren't looking ahead. Any of you ever taught a young person to drive? Okay. And I remember from my own experience, when one of the terms my dad would use was aim high. That was an Air Force term too, aim high, Air Force, right? But aim high. And what he was trying to tell me was, don't look over the hood at the ground in front of the car. You need to look down the road. You need to look at the horizon. You need to see everything in between. And if you look over the hood, you can't see what's coming up. And it becomes startling, and you start doing this. And I would do it. When I first started driving, I'm looking at the two lines and right over the hood, and I'm trying to stay in between them, and I'm doing this, and all I'm doing is hitting the lines. But when I started focusing out on the horizon, I see this track, and it's very easy to just stay in the track. And so you have to look forward. You can't look just right in front of you in the next step. You have to look at the destination, the distance, see the turn coming up. See, you have to look. That's what we have to teach kids to drive. That's what God wants in our lives. He wants us to look out. 2 Timothy 1:7, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and sound mind. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. 4:13, we saw Peter, just for time's sake, Peter walking on the water. God called him out, Jesus called him out into the water. And he went, and he was doing great when he focused on Christ. But when he started looking at the waves, fear, and he sank. We need to look out, look towards spies. So number one, we had the report of the spies. Number two, the revolt of the people. Fear is contagious, much more than happiness is. And fear is contagious. It can rot the progress of a people. It can rot the progress of a church. Fear can do that. And so that's exactly what happened with the people and this bad report. the heart of the people. Caleb retold the story in Joshua 14:8. My brethren went up with me, made the heart of the people melt. Obviously, by showing their lack of faith, the spies were not edifying the children of Israel. They weren't helping. They gave a bad report. So letter A, the people murmured. The people murmured. Numbers 4, and we get into the next chapter, Numbers 14, 1 through 4. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept aloud. And the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. The whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God that we had died in the wilderness? And wherefore hath God brought us into this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and children should not be a prey? Were it not better for us to return to Egypt? And they said one to another, let us make a captain and let us return to Egypt. Does that sound familiar? When they're waiting for Moses on the mountain, let us make a new God. Let us have someone else guide us. And so here they wished for death in verse 2. And the children murmured against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt? Or would God that we had died in this wilderness? They were hoping for death. One of our strongest desires is self-preservation. Keeping yourself alive, not getting killed. Just don't get killed. And so they were so focused on that. They were murmuring. They were why do you, and this is the same thing we've heard before. Every time they were upset about something, we're going to die here. Why couldn't we just be in Egypt? We could die there after being a slave for many years. And second, the children of Israel wish they could return to Egypt. Again, they've said this before. In verses 3 through 4, let's get us a new captain. Let's return to Egypt. I think they've forgotten what they did when they left Egypt. Moses and Aaron defied Pharaoh. Plagues killed people, firstborn. They looted willingly. The Egyptians gave them all their wealth as they were leaving. They looted them. Do you think things would be good in Egypt again? I don't think so. I think it would be 10 times worse. Probably many would be made an example and die a horrible death, and then the rest would be slaves. But that's going to be better than what God has for you? I mean, that's the extreme that the people went. We have extremes today. Yesterday we went out door knocking and soul winning, and I was talking about how you'll come across people today who claim to be a Christian. One of the highest percentages of the I guess the words are the portion of people that are dealing with anxiety and depression are male Republicans who don't go to church because their idol is now politics. Their idol is somebody, some human, some policy, some democracy, something other than God. And they don't have a church community, they have a political community. The political community will fail you. And so these people, they wish to return to Egypt. That equates to the Christian. Think about this. I renounce Christ. I choose hell. Thankfully, once you're saved, you're always saved. We don't have the power to do that. We can make horrible choices for our life here on earth. But God keeps his promise. But that's the same thing that they're saying. We're not going to choose God. We want to choose hell, Egypt.